Welcome to Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where you get unconventional insights into retirement and lifestyle design that actually work. You don't have to settle for the same tired Wall Street advice. Break away from the herd and learn how to achieve the retirement lifestyle of your dreams. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
All right, back on Personal Pension Radio, episode number 132. I think you'll really like this episode. I am, as you just heard, the income engineer, broadcasting from my Personal Pension Radio workshop here in Southern California. My mission, and I have absolutely chosen to accept it, is to deliver the retirement dream that Wall Street promised you, to help you actually achieve that Wall Street retirement dream. You've got to be prepared to step away from the Wall Street retirement plan. The Wall Street retirement plan, that conventional wisdom that Wall Street has taught for years and years and years, primarily benefits Wall Street. I was recently teaching to a group of CEOs, and someone asked me this question that I've been asked many times. Kraig, why haven't we heard this before? I was teaching on income engineering and designing income plans post-retirement. So after these CEOs sell their business, they've got a very specific set of economics that they have to deal with that they were not aware of. So this one CEO, he said, wait. Why have I never heard this before? Why have we never heard any of this before? And I've shared this on the podcast before, but it's always important to remind people in general. And I guess I'll ask the question instead. Does Wall Street have any financial incentive to teach me how to teach you to take money out of the Wall Street system? Does Wall Street have any financial incentive to teach us how to take money out of the system? Well, the answer is of course not. Of course, they don't have any financial incentive. So therefore, the education in regards to income distribution and withdrawals is very limited. It really is. It's actually incomplete. The advice from the typical Wall Street conversation is only halfway there, because you've got to have an accumulation plan, savings and growth. But in addition to that, you've got to have a plan for distribution. And the economics of those two things are very different. And also, the distribution conversation is contrary to the mission of most financial advisory firms, which is hang on to the money as long as possible, right? So this is not an anti-Wall Street show. I mean, I am a certified financial planning professional with all of the necessary licenses and letters and numbers after my name. So I work in both the securities and stocks and bonds, etc. world, but I also work as a financial planner in a comprehensive 360-degree approach that I'm not afraid to step away from Wall Street to say, what other solutions and things can we bring into the plan that will help to improve the end result, which is retirement income in many cases. So that's the difference here, is that in order to go for maximum retirement income, that retirement dream that Wall Street promised, it requires non-Wall Street solutions to be combined into the plan. And that's the big deal here. So that's what Personal Pension Radio is all about. That's what it's all about to me. As the income engineer, I look at everything in a very macroeconomic perspective from the big picture. I'm not afraid to cross the lines into the insurance world, the real estate world, combine that with the securities world, the investment world, for the best possible outcome. Now, quick disclosure, I am not an attorney. I am not a CPA, certified public accountant. I am a certified financial planner professional. All that said, please do not act on things that you hear on this show as if you're hearing advice for you in your specific situation, because you're not. We need to have a conversation. We need to have a detailed conversation before you get any kind of recommendations to act on. And especially, please, do not act on advice or things that you hear from financial entertainers as if you're getting advice. Financial entertainers are only regulated by the First Amendment. They can say whatever the heck they want, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's horrible advice or not. Financial entertainers can say whatever they want. Please be cautious. Meet with a qualified, certified financial planner before you get any kind of ideas on acting on things. So now let's jump in. Last week in the first segment, the Watch Your Step, we jumped right in. I jumped right in. I say we, like we're all together in the pool. We're jumping right in. I jumped right into listener questions. And this week, I want to actually do some personal therapy. So I want to go through some personal therapy, something I'm personally struggling with. And I know that thankfully my audience is so large. I know that some of you out there are struggling with similar things. And I want to share this with you and some of the things that, as I've struggled through this in the last week or so, these are some things that I have remembered that might be helpful to you if you apply them in your own way to your own world. Now, I struggle personally. I struggle living in Southern California. Now, before you tell me, hey, stop whining about living in California, I have listeners all over the world. I have listeners in Michigan. I have listeners in Maine. I have listeners everywhere that are saying, stop whining about living in California. You got perfect weather out there, right? Well, let me explain. I know that Southern California in general, I know that California has a ton to offer. I know that living here now for most of my life, I know that living here has afforded me opportunities that I would not have had living as a small town boy in Maine. I know that. I appreciate that. I understand that when I left Maine, I was a teenager and I never had to get up and go to work Monday through Friday, like my mom as a nurse in the middle of January when there was a freak snowstorm or hurricanes and ice freezing and all of that and slipping and falling on the stairs and needing back surgery like my dad. I mean, I never had to go through that kind of life. I understand that. There's lots of people here in Southern California. I mean, the population is fantastic. If you're a financial planning professional, as I am, I mean, this is the ideal place to be, right? Because there's nothing but people that are possibilities of folks that might want to work with you, right? Almost perpetual sunshine for car shows. If you listen to this show, you know that I run a car show every Saturday. So it's a perfect location for car show guys, right? So I love cars, and so perfect. That's great. Now, here's the thing, though. I am from Maine. I'm a kid from Maine. I grew up small town in the woods, really. And I guess the best way that I could describe why I'm just having a really hard time now, I struggle with living in California. I just struggle with so many times that it just frustrates me. It is in part the traffic. It's the way it looks. It's the way it feels. Maybe it's just that small town DNA in me that is just coming out more and more and more as I get older. I'm not sure what it is, but it was this big realization, I guess, for my wife when we went back to Maine a few years ago. We went back to Maine at Halloween time. So just a little backstory. My wife and I have been married for years and years now. It's been great, but she's never really understood why I just don't have a big holiday cheer kind of spirit when, it gets into that Halloween time and Thanksgiving time and Christmas time. And so many folks here in Southern California are all excited about Christmas and the holidays, and that's great. I enjoy that season, but I really don't get into it at all. The idea of decorating my front yard with Christmas decorations, while my lawn is still green and I still have to mow my lawn around my Christmas decorations, that just never felt right? It just didn't feel right. So a few years ago, we went back to Maine on Halloween week, and my wife and I went for a walk on Halloween night in a small town in Maine where I spent so many weeks and months in my summers as a kid. We went for a walk up and down Main Street while all the kids were out trick-or-treating. The weather was cold, was extremely crisp, and as we're walking up and down the street, I turned to my wife and I said, this right here, this is exactly what Halloween is supposed to feel like. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is what it's supposed to smell like. This is Halloween. And I said, this is why it's so hard for me to ever really get excited about the holidays. It just, in my core, it just doesn't feel right. It's not right. And it was a moment, I think, when my wife and I were she was really able to better understand why it's always been such a challenge for me. So all that said, I struggle with living in California, I think, at the core, because it's just that feeling. It's that small town boy that just, I can't let go of that. So how do you deal with that? When you're in that situation yourself, when you feel trapped in wherever you happen to be in the world, that's what I've been struggling with. Now, I absolutely would appreciate any comments, feedback, emails. Please, by all means, tell me how you deal with it. If you go through and you have this same kind of situation, please tell me how you deal with it, right? For me, what I've been able to do, and this has taken a long time to kind of find it, is that I actually found this turning point a long time ago that always reminds me to come back, always reminds me just to come back and reset. And recently I was reminded of that turning point, and then it helped me to focus on the things that I have that I really enjoy, that really help me to actually deal with that frustration that I have. So I want to share this with you. It's a very personal story, and I want to share it with you. Maybe it'll be helpful that you can find some strength in this, some application in your life. Let's see. I'll share it with you, and we'll see how it goes. So a long time ago, I say a long time ago in a land far, far away, I actually went through a divorce. I went through a divorce with my daughter's mom, and the divorce was not my idea. It was a very, very bad time in my life. Let's just say really bad time. I'll tell you what, great, awesome diet plan, divorce. When it's not your idea, definitely really causes some seriously good weight loss. So tons of bad experience there, but here's the story. So one day, going through this situation years ago, my daughter asked if she could see her mom. So she was home with me, and I had started my career in the financial services world so that I could spend more time with her. That was really one of the primary drivers to my entry into the financial world, was the flexibility it gave me to spend more time with my daughter. And it did exactly that, for sure. But here's the thing. She was asking, hey, can we go see mom? Right? And she was missing mom. So I said, you know what? As much as I don't like that person, I love my daughter, and I have time today. Let's go for a field trip. Let's load little Maddie up in the car and let's go for a drive. And so we headed off actually towards Orange County, where at the time I had not spent a good deal of time in that area. I had not traveled a good deal to where Maddie's mom worked, so I was not familiar with the area. It wasn't terribly far away, but I was successful in getting lost. Now, remember who we're going to visit, right? I'm doing this for Maddie, but I'm driving on the freeways in California and such, but I'm not a happy guy in general with where we're going. I'm just doing it for Maddie. But what I didn't realize was that as I got more and more lost, I got angry. I got really mad. I got visibly angry, frustrated, mumbling under my breath. And little Madeline is sitting in the back seat, just sort of staring at me in the rearview mirror, just being quiet. Like, oh my gosh, Dad is having a meltdown, right? So I am just getting more and more boiled up because I got lost. I couldn't find the right exit, the right location. I didn't know where I was going. So here I am, right? A grown man, poor little girl in the back seat, just watching me have a meltdown. And I get to a point now in Orange County that I look down the way and I look and I say, you know what? I know where I am. I know where I am. I am going to get my daughter to see her mom. I do not like that woman, but I love my daughter. I am going to make it there, right? We're going to get it there. And I'm looking ahead. Now, remember, I've already lost my mind at this point. I'm already just totally frazzled. I look down the way and I realize all I got to do is I got to go down there and I got to turn left. I just got to get down there. And if I can make it down there and I can turn left, I know that street. I know where I'm going. That's where we need to go. We just need to go down there and turn left. And I'm so frazzled, so flustered that I didn't pay attention as I'm talking to myself. I just got to go down there and turn left. That I actually ended up in the left turn lane for the 405 South Freeway in Orange County. And if you don't know what the 405 South Freeway in Orange County is, just think of a gigantic parking lot. A gigantic parking lot at almost any time of the day. The 405 South is a parking lot. And sure enough, I was so flustered that all I got to do is go down there and turn left. I turned left onto the 405 freeway 2 stoplights early. I wasn't paying attention. And at that moment, I realized I was stuck getting on the freeway. I actually pulled over into the breakdown lane on the on-ramp. I pulled over and I took a breath and I turned around and I looked at my little girl and I apologized. I apologized to her for being such a hothead, for being such a grumpy guy. I apologized. I said, I'm so sorry. I just made a wrong turn and we're just going to go around. I know where I'm going and we're going to get there. It was this realization, folks, that it's not that important to be that angry. There's nothing to be that angry about. It's not worth it. It wasn't worth it at all. It was this instant realization that I needed to take joy in the fact that I had been lost with my daughter. That's awesome. We weren't lost in the desert somewhere where we're going to die of starvation. We were lost in civilization. We could go get ice cream. We could go get lunch. We could stop at the museum. We could do all these things together, even lost, right? And here I was getting all pissy and upset, and there's no reason for it. So I just, again, like I said, I apologized to my little girl, and we got jammed in that traffic for the next 15 minutes. It took 15 minutes just to go down the freeway a little bit, get off the freeway, and then come back to where I was. And it was probably a 2-minute drive, but it took 15 minutes. We got there. Madeline saw her mom, got to say hello. Not as long as I wanted, I would hope, but then we went out to have a late lunch together. We went out and just had a great day. We finished the day with this always in the back of my mind. Whenever you're having one of those absolutely just crappy days, this is me. I say to myself, left on the 405. You know what? It's a left on the 405. It's okay. That is a huge, it centers me whenever I need a reminder of things, right? So something else that happened, so that's my left on the 405 story. If it helps you in some way, please take some comfort, take that into your world. My left on the 405 story, it's just something that's been with me for a long, long time, and I'm sure it will be there for a long time to come, because I'll need reminders. I will need reminders forever and ever, I'd imagine. Another thing to think about is, right, as I struggle with my living in California, in Southern California, you've got to find, I've searched for it, and I think I've got it. You've got to find your sanctuary. You've got to find that thing that you're able to get away from the world that maybe bothers you. Maybe it's not where you live that bothers you. Maybe it's your work. Maybe it's family drama. Who knows, right? But you've got to find that sanctuary. And for me, the sanctuary actually turned out to be when we moved a couple years ago. We moved here to one of our rental properties. We moved into it, and it's just a really an old country style house in a small town or a relatively small town, not small compared to where I grew up, but small compared to California. And it afforded me the opportunity to put this workshop that I'm sitting in, in my backyard. So I actually have a full-blown wood shop in my backyard that I can come here and put on my headset and run my tools and build stuff and tinker. I can do that. It is my sanctuary, right? It's my sanctuary. It allows me to get away from the outside world and, just have that time to focus on things. So whatever your sanctuary is, whether it's going kayaking, riding a bike, playing video games, reading a book, whatever it is, search for it, find it. I believe personally I have found it. Doesn't mean that I don't need a reminder to get back to it sometimes. Yesterday was one of those days that I needed a serious reminder to get back to it. I knew that I was boiling up on my love for California yesterday, and I needed a reminder to get back to the sanctuary, get back to the left on the 405 as a reminder to settle down, right? Now, an additional thing. Please, if you struggle with, let's say, work or personal issues, right? Please be careful not to just jump. Be careful to avoid the impulsive decision to jump ship, for example. I met somebody years ago. I say that like years ago, legends and lore years ago. When I say years ago, it could be, I think I met this person probably 5 years ago, and she worked for a company that had an ESOP, an employee stock ownership plan. So that is a company literally owned by the employees. This particular company, let's just say, is very well known nationally, and the ESOP had afforded her a huge retirement account. I mean, huge. Her ESOP account was worth, at the time I met her, nearly $900,000, and she had done nothing to contribute to her ESOP. That was just company contributions for ownership shares in the ESOP. So her retirement was tracking, if she stuck it out for another 7, 8 years, she was tracking for $1.3 million, $1.5 million, somewhere like that. I mean, it just huge. She had a great, great retirement plan with the ESOP. What she didn't have was any love whatsoever for her direct supervisor. Her direct upline supervisor, she despised this person. And she just made an impulsive decision one day. She said, I am out of here, right? That's what she did. I'm out of here. She jumped ship. She quit. And then let me know, I'm the financial planner that, a friend, let me know, and my comment was, what What are you doing? Don't do that. Hold on. She did. She basically burned the bridges, right? So she blew them up, then burned them, then cemented over the bridges. She screwed herself right into no going back. She realized she made a serious mistake. Later on, months later, she admitted she made a serious mistake. My suggestion now to you is the same to anyone in this situation. Please avoid making an impulsive decision to jump ship, right? Think it through. Plan for a strategic decision. Plan for a decision that is on your terms, that you control as much of the details as possible, right? So, find your sanctuary. This is for me, as a reminder to me as much as it is to you. Find your sanctuary. Find your hobby, whether it's your hobby, a blog, a new business, or all three, right? So a good friend of mine from years ago, gosh, I got to stop saying that, years ago. A friend of ours lived in Japan with her husband and kids while he was on assignment with their company. And she was kind of bored, kind of isolated, living in Japan with two kids. You know, they're all four of them are Americans. So she's a little culturally isolated, et cetera, right? So she's bored. She's a little frustrated, kind of getting towards one of those left on the 405 days, right? And she actually started a blog based on her love of cooking and photography. And the next thing you know, she had a new business. And her website and her blog was born. It's called La Fuji Mama. Look it up. It's very cool. LaFujiMama.com. It's a really cool food blog that she started, and it turned into a business. This hobby, this outlet for her, turned into a great business and tax-deductible travel. That's pretty fantastic. So let me get on to a question that I had here. So listener question, right? So last week, listener question was about Ken Fisher and Fisher Investments. And go back and listen to the last episode if you want to hear my take on why I believe Ken Fisher loves annuities. He loves them. He doesn't hate them like he says in all of his advertisements. But this week, great question. Here's the question. Kraig, my wife and I are on track to retire in the next 5 years. Congratulations. Awesome. We are both in good health, and we would like to travel as much as possible after we retire. We are worried that healthcare costs will eat into our retirement travel budget. Any suggestions would be appreciated. All right. So here's one for you. And it's funny, good question, because I've thought about this myself. So medical tourism. Think about this. If you want to travel around the world and you want to go to long, far-off destinations, think about medical tourism. So Amy, my wife and I have been blessed to travel the world. We have been all around the world, from Argentina to Russia to the Baltic. We've been all over the place, and we've seen some great places. But one thing that always makes me nervous when traveling is getting sick or injured in a questionable medical quality destination. So let me say this. When we were in St. Petersburg, Russia, I'll never forget, there was a family there on our cruise ship that was from Turkey. The family had a young boy who was, maybe a carbon copy of me, a little ADHD kid running around all hyperactive and everything. And well, sure enough, he ran around, and then jumped, slipped, fell, smashed his head on a concrete seat, a wall out there in St. Petersburg while we were on a tour. Bashed his head pretty good. Got a fairly severe concussion. Well, he ended up having to go to the hospital in St. Petersburg, Russia. The family did not get back to the boat until late. The boat was actually delayed, right? Waiting for them to get back. All right. So what was the report? Well, the family basically said it was like going back in time. Going back in time to the hospital just felt like the hospital was from old times. It felt old and antiquated. Now, they are okay. The little boy was all right. He did, in fact, have a concussion. He had to be monitored. He had to be treated, and he got health care. It's just the family said it just felt antiquated. It felt old, kind of, and it made me nervous. All right, so that's it. It just made me nervous. So I personally don't like the idea of traveling to destinations that do not have good medical care available, right? I was very uncomfortable in certain parts of Argentina, for example. You know what? No, I really don't want to go do any adventure tourism in Argentina. That was my answer. Some folks wanted to say, hey, do you want to go, hand gliding or this or bungee jumping and whatever? No, I don't, because I didn't feel comfortable that particular destination would have good medical care if I were injured. So this question reminded me of medical tourism. Medical tourism is a thing. So if you've never looked it up, please look up Patients Without Borders. You can also look up the Medical Tourism Association and Medical Tourism Magazine, right? Now, this came to my mind again because in 2014, filmmaker Morgan Spurlock, right? He's the guy who did the documentary movie Super Size Me, where he just ate at McDonald's every day for I don't know how many months or year, and then had all of his health numbers checked, and it was not good. So Morgan Spurlock is a documentary filmmaker that has a show. He had one. I don't know if he still has it, but he had a show on CNN called The Inside Man, where he went to Thailand for a medical tourism documentary. He went to Thailand, and he went there to just film the documentary, but he also went there with medical procedures that he intended to get. And he went to a hospital that's internationally known, very well known. I'm going to probably pronounce it incorrectly, Bumrungrad International Hospital. This hospital, by the way, just so you know, this is no fly-by-night hospital in Thailand. This hospital serves over 520,000 international patients from 190 countries yearly, right? This hospital is state-of-the-art, absolutely state-of-the-art. But you know what doesn't exist at this hospital in Thailand that Morgan Spurlock went to? Bureaucracy. There's no bureaucracy. It's run like a business. Top doctors, absolutely phenomenal, beautiful facility, clean, and no bureaucracy. None. So, give you an example. Spurlock, right, goes in and he gets MRIs, blood tests, eye exams, x-rays, etc., etc., etc. All of these services would have cost $14,000 in the U.S. In Thailand, $4,300, including airfare. And before he went into the doctor's office to get all of his procedures done, he went on vacation in Thailand and toured the temples and the beaches and the beauty all around Thailand. He got to enjoy that even before and after his visit to the hospital. Medical tourism is a real thing. Consider this. Bypass surgery, heart bypass surgery is $88,000 on average in the U.S., probably pushing $100,000 today. $31,500 in Thailand. $31,500. And before you say, oh, no, I'm not going to have some doctor in some other foreign country do my heart bypass surgery. Well, we're here to tell you, these are all accredited top-level surgeons. People come from all around the world to have their health care managed at these places, right? So medical tourism is a thing. So as you consider, this is the answer to the question, right? As you consider your retirement travels, Any interest in ever going to Brazil? How about Costa Rica, India, Malaysia, Mexico, Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, Turkey? Listen to that list. I mean, those are places that I would want to go. Those are places on my list. And as it turns out, those are some of the best destinations in the world for medical tourism. Costa Rica, for example, India. India has apparently just a phenomenal medical tourism programs in India. I mean, they will pick you up at the airport. They will give you full valet service to a hotel. They get you to they get you to your hospital. They have recovery services that you can recover there in place. Oh, that's one of my favorite is a gentleman on Morgan Spurlock's documentary. And by the way, look it up. You can look it up on YouTube. It was in 2014, Morgan Spurlock Medical Tourism. You can see the full documentary there. But he interviewed a guy that came in for, I think it was hip surgery, came to Thailand for hip surgery because the surgery was so expensive in the U.S. that his healthcare insurance wasn't going to cover nearly enough of it. So he actually flew to Thailand and got his surgery there. And then where did he recover? Because you have to have some recovery time, right? So where did he recover? Oh, in his oceanfront hotel for about $100 a night on the beach. That's where he got to recover. That sounds like vacation. Well, yes, he went on vacation to Thailand, got his surgery done for about, somewhere around 70% less than it would have cost him in the United States, and he had a nice vacation with top-notch medical care. Top-notch medical care. So think about that. When you're thinking about places to travel, world-class healthcare destinations, it's a complex thing. So Patients Beyond Borders says this: look for places that government and private sector invest in healthcare infrastructure. There's a demonstrated commitment to international accreditation. So these are doctors that are not just accredited in Malaysia, for example. They are accredited by international organizations, right? So these doctors have real accreditations. Quality is assured. They're transparent. You've got an international patient flow. You look for places that actually have consistent history of international patients flowing into their locations. They've got infrastructure for tourism, right? A history of healthcare innovation. So when you're looking at that, you look at places perhaps differently. I would suggest looking at Patients Beyond Borders. Also look at the Medical Tourism Magazine and the Medical Tourism Association. There is a Medical Tourism Association with tons of information about medical tourism. So for me, the answer to the question is travel to places that actually have medical tourism as a growing or established and growing industry emphasis. Places like Costa Rica, India. You know what? India wasn't on my travel list. But as I read and researched for the answer to this question, India is one of the top destinations referenced for medical tourism. They do a phenomenal job, like really full valet service when it comes to getting certain procedures done in India. Malaysia, Mexico for dental work. That was a joke for years and years. It was a joke. You're going to go to Mexico and get your teeth done. Well, it's real. It is absolutely real. You can go to Mexico and you can go to clinics, for example, that are established international destinations, not just for people from the U.S., but international destinations for cosmetic dentistry, for just basic dentistry work with top-notch doctors with a history of just excellent patient care. Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, just phenomenal destinations. One of the interesting ones I thought was Turkey. Remember my story of the folks in Russia? Where were they from? They were from Turkey. So when they had to go to a Russian hospital, now I kind of understand because they're on the list as one of those medical tourism destinations. Now maybe I understand better why they were a bit uncomfortable going to the hospital with their son in Russia. right? Because Russia is not on the list. Okay? So sorry if you're Russian or the folks in Russia listening, but Russia wasn't on the list, but Turkey is on the list, right? So that is a way for me personally, when I look at international travel in the future and even today, I look at those kind of things as, are those places that we might go on the list of medical tourism destinations? So I hope that helps. I hope that helps answer your question about, how you deal with healthcare and health coverages and procedures and things like that when it comes to retirement. Now, that's going to wrap it up today. Thank you so much again for being here. Really appreciate all of your support. The reviews on iTunes. iTunes are great. I love the positive feedback. I even had a listener give me a great review on my LinkedIn page. If you haven't looked at my LinkedIn page, check that out at Kraig Strom. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Grant, awesome. The review, I so appreciate it. It really makes my day. Thank you again for listening. I'll talk to you again next week. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio podcast. If you missed anything during the show, that's okay. We took the notes for you. Check the show notes for links, offers, and a full transcript. And don't forget to head over to personalpensionradio.com and download your free retirement income report. While you're there, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening. Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.